Nobody wants to admit this out loud, but having a pile of cash sitting in your bank account makes life dramatically easier than the invest everything crowd will ever tell you. Deep down, people know this. They feel it in their bones, but saying it publicly gets you labeled financially irresponsible by the financial advice industrial complex. And before you jump into the comments screaming about inflation, opportunity cost, or how cash is trash, relax. We'll get there. This isn't about being lazy or scared of investing. This is about the quiet advantage insiders understand while outsiders repeat spreadsheets. The people who've actually lived through layoffs, medical bills, market crashes, and bad timing know something the textbooks refuse to say. Because actual humans live actual lives in the actual economy, not inside perfect charts. Hey, I'm Brian. I spend way too much time thinking about how money actually works when real life shows up uninvited. Not the fantasy version where every decision is optimized, disciplined, and uninterrupted for 40 years straight, but the messy version where cars break, jobs get weird, markets crash, and timing matters more than theory. And if you want more control over your life, less financial anxiety, and the ability to make decisions from a position of strength instead of panic, smash that like button and let's dive into this. Because this conversation changes how you see cash forever. Here's the core idea, and this is where things get uncomfortable for the conventional crowd. People who actually have meaningful amounts of liquid cash know something that the fully invested, spreadsheet-only crowd refuses to acknowledge. Cash doesn't just sit there doing nothing. Cash removes friction from your life. Cash absorbs shocks. Cash turns chaos into inconvenience. And the reason this truth gets buried is because an entire financial advice industrial complex profits from telling you that every idle dollar is a sin. They sell you the idea that your money must always be working, always compounding, always optimized. And technically, over very long time horizons, that math is correct. Invested dollars do tend to grow more than cash sitting in a savings account earning 0.5%. Nobody serious is disputing that. But what they never model is the cost of stress, the cost of forced decisions, and the cost of bad timing. They don't price in what happens when life doesn't politely wait for your portfolio to recover. People with meaningful cash reserves experience less stress, more flexibility, better opportunities, and far more negotiating power. They can solve problems immediately instead of financing them. They can walk away from bad situations instead of enduring them. They can act when opportunities appear instead of watching them pass by. And they can protect their long-term investments by not being forced to touch them at the worst possible moment. But this completely ignores how actual humans live actual lives in the actual economy. You don't experience life as an average annual return. You experience it as a series of moments where timing, liquidity, and optionality matter more than optimization. And once you understand that, cash stops looking like a drag on your net worth and starts looking like one of the most underrated tools for making life easier. Benefit number 1, stress elimination. Let me start with the most obvious, stress elimination. Having cash on hand transforms what would otherwise be financial emergencies into minor inconveniences. Imagine your car suddenly needs $3,000 in repairs. If you're fully invested with zero cash, that $3,000 becomes a credit card balance at 20% interest, or worse, you're forced to sell part of your portfolio at a loss just to cover it. The person with cash simply writes the check, fixes the car, and moves on. The psychological difference between these scenarios is enormous. One person is lying awake at night, calculating interest, market losses, and payment schedules. The other is calmly scheduling an oil change next week. It's not just cars either, medical bills, home repairs, unexpected travel. In every scenario, cash acts like an invisible shield, turning panic into practicality. During the 2020 market crash, people with cash reserves didn't have to liquidate stocks at 40 to 50% discounts just to cover expenses. They weathered the storm while the fully invested crowd scrambled. And here's the kicker. The financial advice industrial complex doesn't sell stress reduction. They sell optimization and compounding. But actual humans live actual lives in the actual economy, and stress costs more than a few basis points of lost interest ever could. Benefit number 2, freedom and flexibility. But the benefit goes even deeper, freedom and flexibility in life decisions. With 6 to 12 months of expenses in cash, you're not trapped in a toxic job just to meet payroll. You can negotiate harder for your salary because walking away is an actual option. You can pivot careers, relocate, or start a side hustle without worrying that your next paycheck will be late or your bills unpaid. Contrast that with someone fully invested but illiquid. They might have a higher paper net worth, but they're stuck. One layoff or emergency, and they're forced to compromise on life decisions, take pay cuts, or accept stress-filled compromises. Meanwhile, the person with cash exercises agency. They can think strategically instead of reactively. They can make choices that align with their goals rather than their immediate financial pressures. Think about real-world examples. Someone sees a local business for sale at a bargain price, but without cash, they can't act. Or imagine a career opportunity in another city. The person without liquidity stays put, burdened by immediate obligations. Cash buys time, and time is often worth far more than paper returns. The psychological weight lifts immediately when you know you're no longer hostage to circumstance. That freedom, quiet, practical, real, is one of cash's most underrated powers. Benefit number 3, opportunity capital. The next massive benefit that nobody talks about is opportunity capitalization. Cash isn't just safety, it's a weapon for action. When a time-sensitive deal pops up, the person with liquid cash can move immediately. During the 2020 market crash, people with cash could buy stocks at 40 to 50% discounts, turning fear into opportunity. Those fully invested or cash poor had to sit on the sidelines, watching value evaporate, unable to act. Real estate works the same way. Sellers love cash buyers because payment is instant and certain. That certainty translates into 10 to 15% discounts off asking price, sometimes more. Businesses, cars, even side projects. Cash allows you to strike while the iron is hot. People without liquidity miss these moments. They scramble to borrow, negotiate, or sell assets at inopportune times, losing both money and time. The psychological difference is huge. One group feels empowered and proactive, the other stressed and reactive. Cash gives you the luxury of choice and timing, and in the economy of actual humans, timing is often far more valuable than marginally higher returns. If you're new here and just subscribed, comment your name below. I read every comment and shout out new subscribers in my next video. I do appreciate you joining me on this finance journey. Benefit number 4, negotiating power. But it doesn't stop at opportunity. Cash gives you negotiating power. Offering immediate payment often nets 5 to 10% discounts on major purchases, simply because sellers prefer certainty over financing or installment plans. Cars, contractors, even small business deals, cash speaks louder than spreadsheets. Picture this, a $25,000 car. The dealership offers 0% financing for 60 months. Someone without cash may see it as a deal, paying the same $25,000 in structured payments. Someone with $25,000 in cash walks in and offers immediate payment. The dealership is likely to drop the price by $1,000 to $2,500 just for certainty. That's not theoretical. That's actual money saved instantly, purely by having liquidity. This power isn't just financial, it's psychological. You command respect, create leverage, and reduce friction in transactions. People without cash negotiate from a position of need. People with cash negotiate from a position of choice. The difference isn't small. It's a shift from reactive to proactive, from survival to strategy. Benefit number 5, protection from forced decisions. The final massive benefit is protection against forced decisions. Life isn't kind to those who are fully invested with zero liquidity. Market downturns, job loss, or unexpected expenses can force you to sell investments at the worst possible time. Retirees know this painfully well. Sequence of returns risk can destroy years of careful planning if you're forced to liquidate when the market is down. With cash reserves, you don't have to touch your long-term investments. You can wait out volatility, Ride the waves and avoid panic selling. Imagine the difference. The person without cash sells stocks at a 30% loss to cover a $20,000 expense. The person with cash writes a check and leaves their investments untouched, preserving growth and confidence. The emotional weight of forced decisions disappears. Cash isn't just money. It's freedom from reactive financial stress. It's the difference between steering your life and being swept along by circumstance. Now, let's address the elephant in the room that everyone screams about: inflation. Yes, keeping cash in a bank account means it loses value over time. Roughly 3% inflation against 0.5% savings yields a 2.5% annual loss. The people who tell you cash is inefficient aren't wrong about this math. But what they're missing is that cash functions like insurance. That $50,000 in a savings account might lose $1,250 a year to inflation, but it enables $5,000 discounts on cars, avoids $3,000 in credit card interest, and allows $10,000 stock purchases during market downturns. The practical upside far exceeds the theoretical loss. In other words, the cost of holding cash is the price of optionality, flexibility, and immediate problem-solving power. Benefits the conventional math completely ignores. Here's what I recommend as a framework for thinking about cash. Start with the foundation: 3 to 6 months of essential expenses as an emergency fund. Next, create an opportunity fund, an additional 3 to 12 months of liquidity for life flexibility and strategic actions. Beyond that, invest in retirement accounts, real estate, or business ventures. I'm not suggesting hoarding every dollar. That would be financially foolish and unnecessary. This is about balance. Enough cash to sleep at night, act decisively, and avoid forced compromises, while still letting your invested dollars grow over time. This framework transforms cash from a passive holding into an active tool for life management. The psychological benefit of having cash cannot be overstated. You sleep better, you stress less, and your decision-making improves dramatically. You start seeing money as a tool instead of a source of constant anxiety. And when you compare scenarios, $150,000 in cash plus $200,000 invested often produces better real-world outcomes than $0 cash with $350,000 invested, despite lower paper net worth. The math might not agree, but your stress levels and available options certainly will. Cash gives you freedom, opportunity, and peace of mind. And when it comes to living an actual human life in the actual economy, that's worth far more than the numbers on a spreadsheet.